Hello and welcome to the NFNR podcast with your hosts, Dev.
And mod.
And today we're going to be talking about genders, sexualities, and map design. I'm going to let Mod start this off whilst I quickly set up the audio visualizer because it's now not working.
Gotta love tech. Gotta love it.
Yeah, we're setting up with two microphones today, and
Yeah, so we're trying something different today.
and it's not working.
Yeah. So map design, we'll go straight into that. Just while Dev is sorting that out.
I think I've got one of us talking.
Oh, that's good.
Oh, it's you.
Oh. Yay.
That's good enough, isn't it?
Yeah, that looks fine. So map design. So today I've been doing a bit of drawing, just on a board and trying to decide where stuff's gonna go. So something new that we've added is a crater. That'll be explained in future why it's there. We also have a caravan site, so you can take a break away and go camping by the lake. In this game, also got like a Niagara Falls type waterfall where you have the option to save and leave the game. Obviously, this isn't going to be the only way you can save and leave the game, but it's quite a fun way to have it.
Yeah, when he showed me the idea for it, I thought it was a really smart and like kind of nifty way of doing it. Originally, when he described it, I was a bit confused, but after a couple of like not even minutes really, like 10, 15 seconds, I kind of saw how it's a very aesthetically pleasing way to do it, and it's kind of showing how you can just transfer straight back to reality and still be able to take this kind of information with you.
Yeah,
It doesn't separate you too much from it, allows kind of connection, and it's a smoother way of doing it as well to other ways. So it's just that little extra touch.
other than that, we haven't really added that very much new stuff. We've got a bit of a bigger forest area.
with
Um,
with something called Martin's Rock. Um, it's going to be connected to some other media that we produced before this, uh, because we figured out over time that it's going to take a very long time to produce this world, which is understandable. So we're going to be producing a few other little bits and pieces, which we're not going to divulge too much information about. They'll kind of be just popping along, so they'll be advertised when they happen or when it's close to happening. But for now, we're going to stay as cryptic as possible.
yeah. So there's stuff happening away from the map. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, there will be, without giving us too much information, it will be ways of leading into this world that we haven't discussed yet. So little bits of extra story, almost like a prequel to something that hasn't actually come out yet, which is what a prequel is thinking about it. So
Yeah. Well, I'll pass you over to. So Dev's been busy this morning, this
I've been
afternoon
doing
now.
yeah, I've been doing a little bit of research.
He's done a bit of research on genders and how people identify. So I'll hand you over to him, and he will do his thing.
I will indeed. First of all, I'm just going to quickly put something in the chat to make sure that setting that I fixed earlier should work. Hopefully it does, and if it doesn't, it should work every 10 minutes or every time two people in the chat say something. So I don't even know if it works for me. If I just put hello, it might pop up with the first one. It's just automated bot. I don't even know if I activated it. I'm being 100% honest. I haven't set up bots in a very, very long time. It is enabled. I might edit it so it doesn't require people to talk, because at the moment we're still very, very small. Oh, I can't actually edit it like that. Oh well, I tried. So yeah, as Mods said previously, I've been doing a bit of research on genders and sexualities, and I posted a couple things on our Reddit and our Twitter. And you know, I wasn't expecting to get many responses, but I did get one from a very lovely Reddit user who, under the name Pretty Pink Puppy, who went through a couple of through one main website that they used to use when they were younger and struggling to figure out what their gender identity was. back in 2012. I actually went on the website, and originally I was a bit confused until I found out that the name has now been taken over by an adult performer. And after a little bit more research, I actually found the proper official website, which is a forum called transgenderpulse.com. It just gives you some bits of information about it. There's loads of different forums on there, not just about gender identity, but there's prevention, drug abuse, sexual abuse, anything along these lines. If you feel like you are struggling in a way, there's a forum for anyone. There's just a general forums, military vets, research studies, poetry. It's like Reddit, but a little bit more specific and a bit more advice driven. I know Reddit can lead to a lot of trolls. Everyone's learned that one way or another, whether it's easy or the hard way. But no, I'm going to be doing a bit more research into that over the next kind of week or so, just to figure it out a little bit more. But whilst doing some research myself, I came across this incredible website called healthline.com. And originally I was like, oh, okay, it's a good website, it's got one thing. And then I went on another link from a different area, and again, same website. And whilst going through it, it's got so many different options. It's got health conditions, discover, so you can figure out more about mental health, men's, women's health, sexual health, youth focus, anything like that. There's different youth groups. You are not alone is one of them, and it just what it says here: stories from real people that destigmatize mental health conditions. There's a bunch of different groups here. Fresh Food Fast, No More Silence. This is the perfect place. If you can't figure out who to talk to, this gives you just a push in the right direction, which is exactly what we're looking for, isn't it, Mod?
Yeah, definitely.
If we're not able to provide it, we can at least push you in the right way to the people who can. And it's 24/7. It's a website. You can access it from any kind of internet. It's hopefully not blocked in any countries. I haven't seen anything saying it's blocked. But let's get back onto the main story, which is gender identity at the moment. So this is a bunch of different terms, and I haven't actually heard of most of these terms before. I've just got to plug my iPad in, otherwise I'm going to lose my notes. Trust me to be ill prepared. I would never. Worst part is, it's an iPad from. It barely works. It's not. Oh, it is. Okay, that's brilliant. But yeah, so I'm going to be going through these with Mod. Just most of them are just one word, one line of information, and we're not judging, we're not discussing it. It's just more of putting it out there, and that there are all of these different genders, and if you feel like you don't conform to one of them, there may be 2, 3 that you think, oh wow, this is I've just got a message on Reddit discussing. There are many subreddits for trans and questioning people like this one. I've also seen many Discord servers too, just showing another form of a way of finding help or advice. Like something I've used before is something called Disboard. You heard of that, Mod?
No, I haven't.
It's an online service, just a website itself, and it's got not most, but you can upload your Discord servers to it. And this allows you to literally search by category, name, age group, anything you want, and it'll give you a list of servers that can provide information, or just give you a group of people that you feel similar to, which is amazingly useful for finding anything like that, because I'm not very familiar with Discord myself, and I have found some amazing groups through it, and it's definitely worth giving it a shot. That's Disboard, so Discord, but with a B and an O-A instead of the O. So it's Disboard. Very useful. And I'll probably leave a link to that in our link tree on our Instagram, which should be being posted throughout the live stream chat periodically every 10 minutes. If not, I will have to fix that in a later episode. But yeah, back to the genders. So it's an alphabetical order. It says there's something like 68, I think. Obviously, yeah, 68 here. I'm sure there are many more, and there's they're not being created, they are being discovered. I don't like the term, someone's just created a new identity or a new gender. It's not creation, it's you. It's already been created. It's a case of it's a lifestyle, and you've chosen it as your lifestyle, which is, incredibly bold and brave of someone to do that. But we're going to start off with AFAB, an acronym meaning assigned feminine at birth, or female at birth. So as far as I can tell, this one is discussing gender reassignment surgery. So going from a female to a male, or female to a other gender. This was kind of one of the first ones that was known about, in the transgender community, going from male to female, female to male, or nowadays it's being able to spread out to going female to agender or anything along those lines. There's massive variety with it now, which is why they've shortened it from, instead of going from male to female, it's now AFAB, so just assigned female at birth. Next one, agender, which is a very common one as well. Someone who doesn't identify with the idea or experience of a gender. Someone who feels like it's not necessarily who they are that's important as well. So they shouldn't be controlled by the thought of, oh, I have to conform to this, I have to conform to wearing specific clothing, or, I'm not allowed to get my ears pierced because I'm a guy. That's something that was frowned upon 10 years ago, 10, 20 years ago, and now it's something where you can get a tattoo, you can get a piercing, you can do anything you want. It's not gender specific, it's just who you want to be, which I think, is incredibly brave, and not a lot of people do it. Got a message on our Twitch chat. Hi followers, primes, and viewers. Welcome. The next one is aliyah gender, a non-binary gender identity that doesn't fit into existing gender schemes, I'm assuming, or constructs. So this is a gender, yes, but they haven't. It's not listed as a gender, so it is a gender that is yet to be discovered by someone. So it's slightly different from agender, whereas that is not wanting to be part of a gender group or not feeling that you are part of a gender group. And this one is saying, I am part of a gender group, but I don't fully understand which one I am yet, or if I have my own specific one. Yeah?
Yeah.
Some of these might not make the most sense to people. Again, some people might just be used to the very stereotypical ones, whereas it's more a case of keeping an open mind and just kind of listening and thinking, maybe I do fit into this. You don't have to be who you were born to be. You're born to be what you want. That makes sense. Don't think it did, but I try my hardest. Now this one is very similar to the first one, AMAB, or AMAB, which is an acronym meaning assigned male at birth. So it's the exact same theory, but switch genders. There's not a lot to be discussed about that because it's the exact same as what we discussed earlier. Androgyne, something like that. I don't really know how to pronounce this word here. Someone who has a gender presentation or identity that's gender neutral. Androgynous. Androgyne.
Can't talk today. We just can't talk.
Or has both masculine and female characteristics. I'm not quite sure what this one means, just because I can't figure out how to say the words. At a very late night last night, if you can't tell by my voice. And not a lot of sleep. But we continue. Next one is aprogender, or aporogender, both an umbrella term and a non-binary gender identity describing the experience of having a specific gender that's different from man, woman, or a combination of two. This again goes along the lines of the aliyah gender, where it's not necessarily one or the other. It can be a mixture of multiple, it could be half of one. It could be any form of characteristics that you find in any form of gender combined to make your own almost cocktail of genders. Is that a correct way of saying it? I feel like that's politically correct enough to say. it's not going by the norms of what we have in these multiple genders. It's finding in bits and pieces of certain genders and saying, you know what, I understand this, and yeah, I'm struggling to figure out my words. But we're going to continue. We've got bigender. The term describes someone who identifies with two distinct genders. Bigender indicates the number of gender identities someone has. So bi, it could be tri, quad, I don't know, centigender, would that be 5? I think so. But, it's like bicycle, tricycle. However, whatever it begins with will be how many genders are specifically in this one gender, if that makes sense. It doesn't indicate which genders someone identifies with or the level of identification, but they have with a particular gender, such as a 50% male, 50% demigirl as their example. So it could be, I am 2% male and 98%. I don't know. We haven't made it that
You
far
could
on the
be.
list.
I think it's like you could be anything. So
Yeah, any
you could
percentage, any
be
ratio.
all of them,
Well,
or say
this one's bigender. So this is only 2. You can have any mixture of the one or the other.
okay.
So I could be 10% male, 90% female, as a very, very basic example. Whereas, trigender, quadgender, that would be like 3 genders, for example, for trigender. So I could be 20% male, 15% agender. That one doesn't make sense because that's a non-gender specific one. But you understand what I mean. It's any ratio, any combination of however many genders are in that specific one. Binaryism. Generally, binaryism refers to a gender systems and schemes that are based on the existence of 2 opposing parts, such as a man or woman, or masculine or feminine. More specifically, binaryism is a type of sexism that erases ethnic or culture-specific non-binary gender roles and identities. That one was a tongue twister. So pretty much it's saying that you can be 2 very opposing genders in one go, which I think is a very interesting way of looking at it, because you do look at males and females, and it's very obvious in the world we live in that there is a massive difference between the two in so many different aspects: pay, masculinity, femininity, just the way we're treated, especially in certain countries. Where we live, it's not horrendous, but it's obvious, which just isn't ideal in any situation, which is what we're aiming to look to change with the world that we're designing. We want to give people a place where, no matter where they are, or what they are, who they are, when they are, I feel like I needed an extra one there, they will always be safe and they will always be respected, and we will try our absolute hardest to just keep them protected and make them feel like they have somewhere to go. Now, this is one that I've heard of before, but I never was told what it was, so it's just one of those things where, oh, okay, now I'm finally being able to read about it. Body dysphoria. Not body dysmorphia, body dysphoria. Body dysphoria is different from body dysmorphic disorder. It refers to a specific type of gender dysphoria that manifests as distress or discomfort with aspects of the body. This may include anatomy, shape, size, chromosomes, secondary sex characteristics, or internal reproductive structures. So this will be someone who is very uncomfortable with certain parts of their gender that maybe they were born with. So this could lead to being agender or being amab. If you were a male and you found everything about yourself to be fine except for maybe your genitalia, and you want to change from male to a female, you may have some level of body dysphoria where you don't like that certain area and you will be looking to change it, and then you can go from this gender to having this preferred gender, the one that you wish you could be, and then you become it, and it's like that smooth transferring process, even though in this case it would be a very difficult process, because body dysmorphia is a horrible thing to go through. Not feeling yourself, not being able to like who you are for who you are. So having that on one very specific area or multiple very specific areas then makes it even harder, because you're thinking, how do I change that without changing the rest of myself? It's a very difficult thing to work along. Now, this one originally, when I read it, I wasn't 100% sure if it was, well, I just wasn't 100% sure what it was, because I've heard the word before, but I've never heard it in this context. But the gender here is boy, BOI. Most people would know that from memes such as "yeah, boy," anything like that. But it is a term primarily used in the LGBTQIA plus communities of color that typically describes someone who has a presentation, sexuality, or gender that is considered boyish. That's pretty self-explanatory. It's any gender that, you know, has that kind of maybe tomboy side of them, where they prefer to be more boyish. It's very self-explanatory, that one. And then we have butch, primarily used in the LGBTQIA plus communities. This term typically describes someone with presentation, sexuality, or gender that is considered masculine. So butch doesn't necessarily indicate any other terms than someone might use to describe their presentation, sexuality, or gender. It's very similar to boy, but more of a adult version. So maybe they consider themselves to be more muscular. Maybe they consider themselves to just have an attitude that is more profound to the male gender. It's a bit more difficult to explain, but it's also a bit more broader. And I guess that's no pun intended. Broader? Maybe? I don't know. Smoothly going on, we're now in the C's, on cisgender, a term that has been used very, very much so in the last maybe 3 years. A term used to describe people who exclusively identify with the sex and gender that they were assigned at birth. So they are pretty much born, say, a male or a female, and they are content with being that. They stick alongside of it, as far as I can tell. I don't think it means anything else. My eyes are looking a bit weird going at the screen. I'm gonna have square eyes by the end of this. Well, slightly curved because of the screen itself, but you move. Now, I'm not quite sure how to pronounce this. Cishet, CISHET, a term that refers to someone who is both cisgender and heterosexual. Oh, okay. So this would be, you know, someone who is born a male and is attracted to females, or vice versa, a female attracted to males. That one is actually very easy to understand. But funnily enough, that's a very common thing, especially, 10 years ago. But I've never actually seen it written. I've never heard this term before, and it's incredibly common, so I don't understand why it hasn't been used. But no, you learn something new every day. At the moment, I've learned, maybe 10 genders that I never knew existed, and it's incredible. Now, what does this say? Cisnormativity? Cisnormativity. The assumption that a person identifies with the sex gender that they are assigned at birth, or that they are having a cisgender identity, is the norm. That's exactly what I was just talking about. The cisgender, everything on those lines, how it's practically become the norm, because 30, 40 years ago it was very frowned upon for gay or bisexuals. Like, it was, gay marriage is still illegal in different countries, certain states of America. It's just, that doesn't make sense to me. Make sense to you, Mud?
Not really, no. I think everyone just needs to, so many people just want to be themselves.
Some people
growing
just,
up in an environment where you can't be yourself is very difficult, and people have different standards. So I know that in certain countries you can actually be put to jail if you're gay, bi.
I mean, in certain third world countries you can be killed for it.
Yeah.
Which is, that's horrific. Imagine having to hide your entire life who you are, really, because you are petrified that you could be killed for it. It's heartbreaking. No, I'm very glad to live in a country that accepts me for me, no matter who I am or what I am. There will always be people that make jokes that are inappropriate, or take advantage of it, but I will never have my life be put on the line by the government, so to speak, because of who I am. It does put a lot of things into perspective when you look at it that way. So going on from cis normativity, it's cis sexism, a form of oppression that discriminates against those who aren't cisgender. Now, I would have considered this just sexism or what's the word? Homophobia, because you're discriminating anyone that isn't a heterosexual or a straight gender, so a person. But looking at it this way, it makes a lot more sense with the cis community. Now, Demi Boy. This one I've heard passed about on social media, but I again, another one that I don't really know a lot about. This is a non-binary gender identity, describes someone who is partially identifies with being a boy, man, or masculine. The term demi-boy tells you that someone's gender identity tells you about someone's gender identity, but doesn't convey any information about the sex or gender assigned to someone at birth. A demi-boy can be cisgender or trans. This goes along the lines of maybe someone who is unable to get gender reassignment surgery or just doesn't want to, but they still want to kind of allow themselves or represent themselves as maybe a male, even if they were born female or other, I guess. I don't know if you can be born other than a male or a female at the moment, but I know that it's very difficult to explain this without sounding like you don't agree with it. But I haven't heard of any people, being born not male or female, but their parents are like, they can be whatever they want to be.
They bring them up in a world where it doesn't matter
Exactly.
if you're in like a pink dress, if you're male or other.
Exactly.
You're basically free to be whatever you want to be, essentially.
Which is exactly how it should
Everyone
be.
has to explore their sexuality somehow, and that's a way of exploring it. And however you want to explore it. So like someone dressing up or going out in a dress
or wearing makeup.
I know there's a person on TikTok.
Yeah.
And I think he's about 4 or 5, maybe even 7, and he just loves wearing dresses, and that's just a way of that's just a way of him exploring and realizing that maybe he doesn't want to be a male and wants to transition into something else or something different.
Exactly. Now you do have a lot of what I have noticed is a lot of parents force this upon their children in some aspects, but you can understand how they're trying to do it for the greater good, saying, look, you don't need to be what you're born as. You don't need to. And you understand that, people are doing it and they're doing it out of the best interest, but there is a line that needs to be drawn saying, yes, they can be whoever they want to be. But you don't need to force them to not be who they want to be. If they want to stay maybe a male, if they were born a male, and you're saying, yeah, but you don't need to be, why don't you try being a female? That is a form of oppression at the same time, which is a bit contradictory because you're trying to do the exact opposite. And it's a very fine line, and you see a lot of people getting hate for it, saying, oh, I hope that my child is born, any gender they want to be. But it's just very difficult to do it right in the eyes of everyone. No matter who what you're doing, whether how right it is or how wrong it is, there will always be people that agree and disagree with you. And it's just trying to figure out a way of not taking it to heart and still doing what you consider to be the best. I think what I'm going to do, by the way, if Mod's okay with this, is I'll probably make it to the letter E or maybe F or something like that, and then maybe have a break, because I need to stop looking at a screen for a minute or so. But let's keep going. So that was Demi Boy. That was a lot of information on Demi Boy. Now we're going on to demigender. The umbrella term typically includes non-binary gender identities and uses of the prefix demi to identicate the experience of having a partial identification or connection to a particular gender. This may include demi-girl, demi-boy, demi-bi, or demi-trans. This just is a group collective. So if this was, one main category, then demi-boy, demi-girl, they're all kind of subcategories of this category. Still just as important, in fact more important because it's more specific. But if you had a group of, demi-boys and demi-girls, they would be a combined mixture of demi-genders. It's just a way of pluralizing it, I guess. Yeah. And then, funny enough, the next one is demi-girl. The non-binary gender identity describes someone who partially identifies with being a girl, woman, xn. I don't know what that one is, but I guess that will be coming up later. Or feminine. The term demigirl tells someone that their gender identity, but doesn't convey any information about the sex that they were born with. It's the exact same as what it was with the male, with the demi boy, but flipped. Dyadic. Now this is one I have never heard of. This describes people who have sex characteristics such as chromosomes, hormones, internal organs, or anatomy. I read those two words together and it almost sounded like it wasn't meant to be said. That can be easily categorized with the binary sex framework of male or female. Dyadic conveys information of someone's sex characteristics but doesn't indicate anything about their gender. So this one is, to put it in, the quickest way possible, this identifies you by your characteristics, by your physical appearance, your internal orgasm. I've said it again. Internal organs. Like a biology teacher that messes up in front of like a bunch of year 7s and they know the rest of their career is over now. They're going to be known for that one person, that one phrase. But yeah, pretty much you are categorized by, say, your genitalia, but it doesn't indicate what actual gender you identify as.
How are those eyes, Dev?
Square. They're square mod.
Very square.
Fortunately. It's fine though, just get some nice round glasses and eventually they'll fix themselves, right?
Yeah, exactly. Boom.
That's how science works. I'm a science man. Right. Okay. We figured it's actually been quite a while, so we're gonna get to the end of F, and we're gonna continue it on the next one. Don't know if that'll be. Doubt it'll be this week, but it'll be next week, the week coming. Whether we do it together or if I continue it, that will be something we figure out on a slightly later date. But continuing, I think we've got 4 more left, by the way. So, feminine of center. This describes people who experience their gender as feminine or femme. Some feminine of center people also identify with the word woman, but others don't. The term feminine of center tells you about someone's gender identity, but doesn't convey any information about their sex or gender assigned to them at birth. So this is just someone who considers themselves feminine, or even, as it says, as it states, they can consider themselves a woman, but not necessarily be born that way. So this could be a man, this could also be a woman, but they consider themselves to be feminine as their gender. Very, very self-explanatory, that one. Next is feminine presenting. This one's quite a long one, apparently. This describes people who have a gender expression or presentation that they or others categorize as feminine. Feminine presenting is a term that captures the part of the woman of somebody's gender that's shown externally, either through aspects of their style, appearance, physical traits, mannerisms, or a body language. This term doesn't necessarily indicate anything about the way someone identifies their gender or their gender or sex assigned to them at birth. I think this is along the same lines, but it's more of like a physical thing, so they're able to show that they're more feminine, not just in mind but in body, so they maybe have a more feminine lifestyle, or something along those lines. That seems to explain it. I think. Mod, does that sound about right?
Yeah. Obviously it's still new to me. I didn't realise there were that many, but yeah, it sounds. If we're wrong, then
Please feel free to correct us.
yeah, always email in or
Leave a comment.
comment.
You know, every comment we get does get we do get notified about it. We keep notes of it. I'm slowly going to start building up a folder on the PC so that we've got all this information, so that when we do design this world and have it all set up, we've got all of this information back in it, so we know that we're not just basing this off our own research. You know, we want to get as much research from as many people as possible. Next one is femme. Now, this was introduced earlier. So this is a label for a gender identity or expression that describes someone with a gender that is or leans towards feminine. Some femmes are also identify as the term woman, while many others don't. Femme indicates that the way someone experiences or expresses their gender and doesn't provide any information of gender or sex assigned to them at birth. Now, I think this is quite similar to feminine of center, but more in the case of feminine presenting, as it's more of a physical aspect, the way they react, the way they act, but also with the case of maybe identifying themselves with the term woman. Again, I think that makes sense. Now, this is the last one on the list for today, female to male. So this is a more specific version of what we had previous at the beginning, which was AFAB. So this term is more commonly used to refer to trans males, trans men, and some trans masculine people who were assigned female at birth. It's important to only use this term if someone wants to be referred to this way, as some trans men and trans masculine people use terms that don't include or indicate the sex that they were assigned at birth. So yeah, as stated previously, this is very similar to AFAB, but it is for people who want to identify themselves as female, as well as, as female. It's the opposite way around. So they are stating that they became one from the other, female to male, and I'm sure that there is a male to female further down the line, which will be the same as this, but obviously reversed. I think that seems to make sense. Now, that's the end of our list for today. I did not realise how long this would take, so we're going to have to continue it later on. Now, as stated in last week's or earlier the first podcast we did, these will be uploaded to the YouTube channel. Hopefully I'll be able to get a few clips, stick them on social medias just to get a bit more awareness, and hopefully just get some more information from everyone. You know, as we said a minute ago, any information is useful, isn't it, Mod?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So,
and we want to know if we're wrong, because obviously we're assuming that we add stuff like Dev was doing. He was adding stuff to it, but we could be talking about something completely different.
Exactly. This is just how I'm reading it and how I'm understanding it. Anyone could understand these in any specific way. Now, most of these I do not identify myself as, so how am I supposed to have a full understanding of it? It would take a lot of time and a lot of information that I don't have yet. So, which is why we love any form of information, because it gives us another step in the right direction to understanding all these sexualities or genders that, you know, we may not be a part of, but we want to understand, and we want to make them feel comfortable, make them feel like they are witnessed and that they're appreciated. So yeah, any information would be absolutely incredible. But thank you very much to anyone who's watched, or anyone who is watching the recorded version of this on YouTube or any social media. I've had a good time discussing this, actually. I think I've learned a lot. My brain's a little bit
frazzled.
A little bit frazzled, but in the best way possible, because now I feel like I am more in touch with parts of, well, humanity that I never really knew enough about, and it's put a lot of things in perspective for me. So what about yourself, Mod? Do you feel a bit more in touch with it?
Yeah, I've got a bit more understanding. I didn't realise that there were 68 different genders.
Yeah.
I just thought there was not a couple, because that would just be wrong. I knew there was loads, but I didn't realise that there was that many.
No, and it feels weird putting a number to it, because, you know, most of humanity has been raised on two genders, for years and years and years, decades, centuries. And now there's this opportunity to be whoever you want to be and whatever you want to be. But it's very difficult to tell where this starts, where this stops. If this continues, and over the years there are more genders that have been discovered by people who've found a way to express it, then we will update this. We'll add more in the future. This is always part of a playlist, and we can separate information from this and make playlists based purely off the podcast, but on more generalized information. I can't think of the right word, but thank you so much for watching. Turns out we actually got someone who followed. He is our first follower. I don't know if they're still watching or not, but thank you so much to them. And we'll be sure to catch you in the next episode. So this was NFNR podcast with your hosts